Okay. I'm Jill, and I am in the background kind of helping out with Barbara and Kathleen and Mary. I'm in El Dorado County and in the chair of the marketing communications team. There's about 19 of us that try to do stuff. So that's it. That's me.
Okay. I'm Mary Elliott Clem, and was interested in starting up a writing group a couple years ago, and got a fledgling group started in El Dorado County. I'm in El Dorado County, and got connected with Jill, and Barbara was in my original group and has become a star student, I must say. And I mean, we're just off. We're really excited about bringing people together and being a good support for each other as we take on the forces that we will. So thank you for coming.
And I'm Kathleen Barco, and you may lose me at any minute due to my rural broadband. Yeah. Anyway, I was supposed to host this, but I'm not. Jill is, because my connection's unstable. So everybody, please put yourself on mute and stay there until we ask for you to take yourself off. About me, I've been in public relations for 40 plus years. I'm retired. I live in Placerville, and I've been working with Jill a lot on the marketing committee for the Democrats. And now we're going to hear from Barbara.
Hi, everybody. I recognize some faces and some names. It's really exciting to see you back here this evening. So I'm really very pleased that I didn't scare you off last time and that you ventured back. I am a retired teacher. I taught for 25 years, primarily in the Elk Grove School District. And interesting fact about me, I used to be Tom McClintock's neighbor. We lived on the exact same street in Elk Grove. Lovely gated community, lakeside homes, beautiful. He's not a very good neighbor. He never came to any of the parties in our neighborhood at all. And he still lives there as far as I know, bless his little heart. I moved to Placer in 2015, became very involved here in the Placer Democrats after the 2016 election. I'm a member of the Central Committee now, and I'm also chair of the Community Engagement Committee. I am president of my Democratic club, the Placer Action Network, and I'm also a very active member of the League of Women Voters. So if I stop to, hit a Red Bull, you'll know why. Again, I'm really excited to have you here this evening. I'm going to try and give you an idea of a vision that I had that I thought was a way to really get our voices out there. And, sometimes we feel like the single voice in the wilderness, and we're not. There are lots of us here, but we have to find a way to combine our efforts. And that's really sort of where this whole vision of the Writers Alliance came together. It started out here in Placer County with what we call Placer Perspectives, which is our writing group that came just out of our Community Engagement Committee. And at that point, it was something that I had talked with Mary and Jill and Kathleen about, and we sort of, decided that it might be something we could sort of export. And so here we are this evening. And so I'm very excited to be able to share more information with you. So let me go ahead and get my screen shared. Whoops, it says I cannot share, Jill. I think you might have to make me co-host.
I'm looking to see your name.
I'm there somewhere.
Yeah, probably at the top. Of course, on the top. Started on the bottom. Okay, co-host. And I'll make Mary a co-host.
There we go. Thank you.
A co-host.
Okay, and as I did last time, I am going to minimize my screen. So I'm not actually going to be able to see you at all during the the presentation, I do that so that I can see my full screen. And so, you know, we'll kind of go over how we can make sure that you have an opportunity to ask questions as you'd like. So here we are for our second seminar together, putting our talents to work, building a Writers Alliance. Jill, it looks like we have some people in the waiting room. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. Kathleen did mention to please stay on mute during the presentation, just because there are lots of us here. We have, you know, lots of dogs in the background sometimes, people wandering through. Ellen, I want your cat. So, you know, we want to make sure that we do keep it muted, but I promise you we will have time for the Q&A session at the end. And if you have questions as we're going through the presentation, in the chat box, if you would please preface your question with the word ask. And that way, as Mary is going through the chat, she knows if she sees that, then she knows that you're asking a question, and it makes it easier for her to keep track of what's there. And there is a handbook of training materials that will be made available after this session. As I worked on preparing my materials for this session, I did revise the handbook a little bit, and it is not yet quite ready for prime time, so it'll probably be a few more days. I am hoping to talk with the county coordinators about what's in that handbook first before we send it out. So a little more patience. I know I use that as a carrot to make sure you come back for the second session, that I promised you that handbook, and you will get it, but it is still sort of a work in process. So here we are at the Writers Alliance. It's a group, a writing group that's dedicated primarily and focused primarily on writing. But to me, it's much more than that. I like to think of it as a collective of our talents. We have many different skills and talents to offer, and our combined efforts can produce amazing results. My purpose tonight is to share my vision of what that Writers Alliance can be. And with your help, we can build it out and build it up. So our goals again is, we talked a little bit about how many letters we were hoping to get, 3 to 5 letters per month in local publications. Obviously that's not from one person, but hopefully we can get 3 to 5 letters per month from our group of writers that do get published. Sometimes we might find more, sometimes less. It just depends on what's been submitted and how the publications are arranging their editorial space. We want to broaden our appeal through the targeted use of social media. That is including published works, but also unpublished works, because we don't have to wait for the newspaper to publish us. We can publish ourselves. And we want to work toward the publication of opinion and viewpoint articles. Some of you are very good with the long form opinion articles. And so we're hoping that as we work through our time with the Writers Alliance, eventually we'll be building up that research. You'll have an opportunity to write those longer form articles for us. Here's our audience, primarily the Democrats and liberals in the area. Those are our little blue people in front, but the purplish ones behind them are the ones that we're really trying to attract and reach with our message. It's those no party preference voters. It's those disaffected Republicans who are open to progressive solutions and common issues of concern, like that rural broadband that we were talking about. That is a huge issue, and it became in 2020 with all the children out of school, all the businesses that were not able to operate. We had an idea of just how important that is and what a huge part of our infrastructure broadband is. And so those are the kinds of issues that we can really work on our message and get our ideas out there, and certainly show how the people that we have, our elected officials right now, are not doing what we need them to do to provide us with those important structures that we need to be successful. So how do we reach that audience? Consider the rhetorical situation. So a rhetorical situation, according to the Purdue University Online Writing Lab, I always like to get some scholarly quotes to back me up here. is any set of circumstances that involve at least one person using some sort of communication to modify the perspective of at least one other person. Okay? In other words, basically, it should sound somewhat similar to what we had talked about in how you structure a letter and how you decide what you want to put in that letter. Essentially, a rhetorical situation correlates with the characteristics of an effective letter. You need to know your audience. You need to have a purpose. You need to clearly state your message. And then what do you hope to achieve? What is that call to action going to be? Each part of a rhetorical situation interacts with the other. So the writer is affected by their own perspectives and experiences. Of course, you know, how do they approach a subject? Why is it they choose a particular subject? Some writers are extremely prolific and can write about just about anything. Some writers have to be moved to write. Something has to spark them. Something has to have some meaning to them. But it's different for every writer, of course. But essentially, they have a purpose. They have a reason why they write. And that's part of that rhetorical situation. Then we have the context and culture. The tone are important. Why, how you discuss the subject, depending on what the subject is that you choose to discuss, is very important. And again, you have to think about who's that audience that you're presenting it to. How are they going to interpret that message? Which is really rounding out the third part of that rhetorical situation, is the audience has their own perspectives and experiences. And anything that they read, they're going to bring or essentially see through the filter of their own experiences and perspectives. So we have to be very cognizant of that when we are working and trying to get our message out there. So our Writers Alliance is patterned in many ways on the model of a rhetorical situation. I kind of looked at this model for the rhetorical situation and thought to myself, well, that looks like a task group model to me. And that's sort of how I came up with what we have for the Writers Alliance. These are the task groups. Each of them is independent, yet they're interconnected with the other groups. And what you'll often find is that the work of one group will connect or overlap in some way with the work of another group. So we have our coordinators, our researchers, our writers, our responders. Oops, I forgot our editor. Sorry, never forget your editor. And our social media cadre. So those are our key components, our key task groups of our Writers Alliance. Let's take a look at the coordinators. The coordinators are really the linchpin. They are the center, the lead for each Writers Alliance group. And as I envision this, as I said, we have our Placer Perspectives, which is our group in Placer County. And we kind of all revolve around each other. But what we will have, I hope, is duplicates of that in each one of the counties that are working in this. And so we'll have our county coordinators come together, one or more, hopefully per county. Sometimes having a team is helpful. Organize and support the groups in their own county, and then liaison with other county coordinators in sort of what I dubbed as a council, a coordinators council, so that they're all kind of checking in with each other, helping each other out, working out any details, ironing out any difficulties. Choosing themes to be writing about, providing training and assistance as needed, and overseeing the tasks of those other groups in the task groups. The researchers are extremely important. As we were talking about our letter writing, we were talking about the importance of having accurate information. Our researchers can help us get that information and have it available for us. So they can help us find and develop talking points on a designated policy issue. For example, one of the first things we're going to be working on is For the People Act. It is the right to vote. It is protecting that right. And so we're developing right now with our researchers the kinds of information that all of our writers will need to draw upon so that they can write those letters all about protecting our right to vote. We're going to need a federal law to do that, because obviously, as we've watched what's going on in all the states around the country, we know that the playing field is not level in a lot of states for voters. And so we're going to need federal legislation in order to make that helpful for everyone. We also have our, the researchers are providing the writers, the responders, and the social media cadre with their evidence, their facts that they need. So if you're trying to send out a tweet in response, or you're trying to do a response to an article that someone has posted and you want to put a supportive comment, what's great is that you have the research to draw upon to get that information. And then they can research and document voting records of local candidates on policy issues. For example, it would be great to have some of our researchers do a deep dive on McClintock's record on broadband, because a lot of that, sometimes those kind of votes are rolled into larger budgeting issues. And so it's easy for him to say he voted no, because of course he doesn't want to add to the deficit. But there are many times when he's actually specifically voted against that kind of infrastructure funding. Fact checking is a critical task for our researchers. This is a media bias chart that I put together, and it came from the mediabiasfactcheck.com. It's one of the sites that our researchers can use to fact check information they find. And what you'll want to notice is that along the left-hand side here, this is their ranking for factual reporting. And you'll notice they go from very high to down here. I actually can't see it because the Zoom meeting bar is covering it up, but I can assure you it's not good. It's basically with InfoWars all the way over here, you know, they're just making crud up. And then you've got at the top your bias, and it sort of lets you know you've got your different publications over here that have a left bias, different over here, your right bias. If you are quoting something as a source, you really want to stay right here in the middle, because as much as I love reading the Washington Post and I find their articles to be wonderful, for many people, they see that as a very left-leaning bias, and people just don't believe what they're reporting. So it is better to cite one of these other news sources when you are using that as evidence. You really want to avoid your overly biased sites and any sites that misinterpret facts and data. And definitely anywhere over here to the far right with the right bias. I mean, you know, facts and data are just, you know, a fantasy for them. They'll make up whatever they can. And here are all of the different websites that you can use to double check all and do that fact checking. Yes, that's in the handbook. All that stuff's there. So you can find that along with this chart there. And there's even a link to an article by one institute that says, should you trust media bias charts? So I've tried to provide you with as much information as possible for you to do that critical task of research. When you are doing the research, it's really important to present that information in a somewhat uniform way so that anybody who looks at it knows basically what they're looking at. Why did you choose this particular site? What is it about it that you find particularly interesting? So I do have a couple of examples here of ways that researchers can present their information. In fact, one of our researchers turned in some information today on HR1, the For the People Act, and sort of use this format, and it works really well. It makes it very easy to see what it was that she was looking at, what she thought was important there, what's something that a writer would want to use in their writing piece, or a responder or someone in social media that could pull that out quickly and use that in their tweet or their Facebook post or whatever they're using to get their message out. You might notice that I did kind of put a little list here in the center here of, you know, what is it about this piece? Is it a notable quote in this particular website or article? Are you just taking notes, something maybe for background information? Are you providing a summary? Is this an example of disinformation? Are you talking about a voting record of a legislator? And here, whoops, here is an example of disinformation. The Heritage Foundation, Tom McClintock's one of his favorite sites. You know, between that and Jefferson, Lincoln, and any other historical figure that he can pull in, that's pretty much where he spends his time, you know, trying to convince us of his certainty. But in any event, this is an example in this particular one that I show here, an example of disinformation. This is an interesting quote that they have here, but it is absolutely an example of disinformation in the way that it's written. And so those are good things to debunk as well. Just because somebody cites that as a source doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good source. Our writers, and we have many, are going to generate original content to comment on the news events and to comment on things that our elected officials do and don't do. Hopefully each writer will submit at least one letter per month. Now, I'll be very honest with you. You could go months without having anything published, but that doesn't mean that those letters can't be used. They can be used. We can repurpose them to post on Facebook. We can repurpose them to thread them on Twitter. And I'll show you a little bit how we would do that. So the writers are going to be generating a lot of content. It's up to us to make sure we get that content out there. And then writers can also assist with repurposing their own letters, using them as social media posts, or maybe using them as a response to another letter that's published, written by another member of the Writing Alliance. Our editors are key people in our alliance because they're the ones that help us be polished and professional. They're going to assist us by reviewing and editing our work. And of course, proofreading is an important part of it, but proofreading is not editing. Editors are really the unsung heroes of the writing process. They do so much more than just check to see if you have a period here or a misspelling there. They can help clarify ideas, make sure as an objective person reading what you've written, they can really help to see, did your message come across in the way you intended it? And a good editor can really help you clarify that. They can show you where your ideas can be better. Perhaps you can combine some ideas together, or perhaps you have more information than you need. You want to do a little bit of removing of some of that extra verbiage that you have. They can strengthen your word choice. I have a bad habit sometimes of using the same word over and over again. So it's always helpful to have somebody who can help me with some synonyms. The good old thesaurus is a great thing to use, but sometimes, you know, you don't want to sound like you're pulling all your words out of a thesaurus either. Sometimes it really helps to have an editor help you strengthen your word choice. Make sure that you kept your writing on topic, and again, provide that objective viewpoint. Now, our responders are an important role because our responders are the ones who are going to basically have the back of our writers. They're going to post supportive comments when letters do get published and through social media posts. They're going to act as sort of a rapid response team to counter any negative comments that inevitably get posted. And it is inevitable if you get something published, you're going to have some trolls out there that are going to take issue with what you've said. And it's nice to have someone else come in and support you. And also responders have an important role in helping to combat disinformation. And one of the things they can use is something called the truth sandwich. And I'll show you in a little bit how to put a truth sandwich together. Our social media cadre. Well, I call them the social media cadre, which is a small group of people specially trained to do something, but what we really need is an army. As I'll show you in the next few slides, social media has become the battlefield of ideas. And to be effective messengers, we need to use social media to get our word out there. So first of all, anybody in the social media cadre, and I would ask anybody in the Writers Alliance who uses social media to follow all of the other members in the Writers Alliance, so that when they post something on their personal accounts, you can be liking, you can be retweeting, you can be sharing. You want to post and share and like and retweet supportive comments on published letters and social media posts. So when responders are putting that out there, you want to like what they've written. You want to share what they've shared. Social media cadre also needs to be combating disinformation using a framework called that truth sandwich. And again, I'll show that to you in just a moment. The social media cadre can help us post unpublished letters, and they can also publicize the work of the Writers Alliance with informative posts and graphics. When we don't have a letter to post at any given moment, we can be posting other things about the Writers Alliance so that we continue to get those posts out there in social media. So one of the things that we'll want to do is transform our letters into social media. And for those of you who were here for the writing class last time, I did something very similar to this with one of my letters, but this is a different letter. This is a letter that was written by Rebecca Galling. She gave me permission, even though she isn't technically a member of our Writers Alliance. She will be if I can get her to join us. But what I did was I took her letter out with her permission, and this is a photo from the bee, and I set it up into 3 different kinds of social media posts. The first over here is a Facebook post. By the way, we have our own Facebook page now for the Writers Alliance. We also have a Twitter account for the Writers Alliance. And the newest one on the block is our Instagram. I just started our Instagram account yesterday. So we have all 3 of these accounts that we can push our things out. All of our social media cadre will be following our Writers Alliance, and then they will push it out as well. So basically it's sort of, if you think of it almost like a pyramid scheme, this is the top of the pyramid. We need everybody to push things out into the ether out there. So what happens when a letter is published or someone's posted? Well, I refer to it as the running of the trolls, because that's exactly what's going to happen. The trolls come out from everywhere, and sadly it's become an inevitable part of anything that you put in any, whether it's in a newspaper, whether it's in social media. There are always going to be people out there who feel they have the need to tell you exactly how wrong you are. So here's, oops, sorry about that. Here's where our responders come in. That when that letter is published, they're going to post those comments. They're going to use repurposed letters as comments. They can go to that research file and pull out additional evidence. And I always suggest, in fact, it's really more than a suggestion, don't engage with the trolls. There is nothing to be gained by swimming in that sea of toxicity, and I just ignore them. You know, I fight disinformation with fact. I fight anger with positive comments. So it's just better to simply ignore them altogether. Our social media cadre will be doing the same thing. They'll be following right behind the responders, tweeting and retweeting and liking their comments and sharing that as well. Amplifying the tweets. They can also quote tweet, which I'll show you for those of you who aren't on Twitter. Basically, a quote tweet is when you comment on someone else's tweet. This is probably the best way to describe a quote tweet. And then again, don't engage with those trolls. Twitter in some ways is even more of a cesspool than Facebook has become. Definitely don't engage with those trolls. So now that I've scared everybody and they're like, no, I don't want to do social media. Well, here's why. Because if we really want to embrace our rhetorical situation, we need to meet people where they are. And where they are is on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. And so it means that we have to be active on social media platforms so that we can reach those people and persuade those communities in CAO 01, CAO 4, and hopefully beyond. Who knows how far we can take this. So Facebook, first of all, has a wide audience, 2.5 billion monthly active users, and it is suited to the older demographic. Seems a little depressing, but it's true. I don't know about you, but I never really used Facebook except to stalk my kids, because that was the only way I could ever see pictures of my grandkids, because nobody, prints pictures anymore. So I used to stalk my kids to get grandkids pictures. I have since changed how I use Facebook, but it's not, I have real issues with the way Facebook is run, but it is still a very effective way to get your message out. And liking and sharing drives the algorithms on Facebook. Twitter has a smaller audience, 300 million active users each month, but it's a younger demographic. And what's important about Twitter is that the media is on Twitter. So if you are trying to get the attention of media contacts, don't try to get their attention on Facebook. If they're not there, they're on Twitter. And so if you're trying to get that kind of attention, you want to make sure you are posting to them on Twitter. And again, Twitter is limited to 280 characters, but you can thread, which is basically a longer connected message. You can like posts, retweet them, or quote tweet them. And graphics here help to draw people's attention to tweets. Over 1 billion monthly users are on Instagram. This is where the millennial and Gen Z voters are. This is our best way to reach them. Instagram stories are the most popular content. I am looking to find somebody who is an Instagram queen or king who can really show us how to maximize our use of this social media, because I know what I'm doing right now is not enough. There's a lot more that we could do. So that's something we really want to work on. And then this last icon you might not recognize, this is TikTok. It is a video-based app with over 800 million annual monthly users, active users, and it is the youngest demographic, primarily 16 to 24-year-olds. If you're looking for our newest, youngest voters, our brand new voters, this is where they are. And it is primarily video. I know my 12-year-old granddaughter is in love with TikTok. Trying to make sure you're setting all kinds of protections on there to make sure that she's not interacting with something that's inappropriate, but it's her very favorite thing to do. And you'd be surprised, sadly, how much time our children are spending with this kind of social media. Because there is so much disinformation out there, even though it isn't necessarily germane to what we are talking about tonight, I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about disinformation with you and what are the best practices in responding to it. The first two to remember is don't repeat the terms of disinformation, and do not click on those articles that probably you look at them and go, yeah, that's a real suspicious title. That's a real suspicious source. I'm curious, what does it say? Don't do it. Don't click on it. Because what you're doing is you're raising their visibility. You are giving them those responses in their algorithm that keeps pumping them up and makes them more and more visible to more and more people. So don't engage with any disinformation. Don't repeat it. When you are trying to refute disinformation, you don't use the words that they use. Don't say election fraud. That's the word they use. We don't use that word, because when people keep reading that and reading it and reading it, pretty soon that's what gets cemented into their mind. And You don't want to like, share, or retweet anything that is either disinformation or is something that you don't want amplified. For example, with Facebook, Tom McClintock's been very busy on social media lately. He's put all kinds of things on Facebook and on Twitter with videos of his speeches and all kinds of woe and gloom that's coming. I see a lot of people who put the little Facebook, unhappy face, I don't like it. That's not a great idea, because every time you do that, you add to his algorithm. Go ahead and comment on it. I do it all the time, but don't say you don't like his post, because that's what drives that algorithm and it keeps it popping up in other people's feeds. You want to prime people to be skeptical, meaning that you want to call out why someone might be posting disinformation. And you want to focus on discrediting that messenger rather than spending a lot of time fact checking what they say. You want to provide facts, but you don't want to disprove what they've said because they're simply saying something that's incorrect to begin with. You want to address underlying concerns and pivot to that proactive message and redirect back to official sources, primary sources if you can, and know when to disengage. At some point, disengage with the disinformation, move on to a different topic. You also want to frame your message very carefully. And this is kind of what I said, don't use their terms. Republicans are really good at framing the narrative, and Democrats are not good at it at all. And we have let them drive the narrative for a very long time. So it's really important that we think very carefully about the words that we use, not just in our letters, but in our comments that we make on Facebook and anything that we're doing in social media. This comes from George Lakoff. He's a retired professor from UC Berkeley, professor of linguistics. He's written a number of different books about how we use language, and it's really essential that we reframe our message. And I was sort of skeptical when I first started reading this a couple of years ago, but I will say one of the things that kind of won me over is thinking about, for years and years and years, they talked about gay marriage. As soon as you started reframing and saying, no, it's marriage equality. We're talking about issues of equality and equity here. That really changed the message, and it changed the mind of a lot of people because they saw it from a different perspective. And that was simply changing the wording that we used in our message. So I did talk last time about, regulations. We don't use that word regulations. We use protections. If we're talking about infrastructure right now and the Republicans are complaining about government spending, no. We are investing in America. That's what we are doing. The money that is being spent is to invest in the people of our country. And that's the way we have to frame our message and be very careful and make sure that we use those kinds of words. So I talked a little bit before about the truth sandwich, and it really is a way to focus on the facts. And if you think of a sandwich, you've got your bread, top and bottom, and then you've got something in the middle. Always lead with the truth, always end with the truth. And that's the idea of your sandwich. So you're going to start by acknowledging common ground, dislodging the truth. You question the motives of the messenger. What is it that they're saying that's untruthful and why might they be saying it? And then reaffirm that truth. This comes from George Lakoff. It's being used right now by Indivisible as part of the Truth Brigade. And this is an example of one of the ones early on that we used with the Truth Brigade. And this happened to be when they were just starting to roll out the COVID vaccines. And so they kind of show you here how a sample message might work for the truth sandwich. So the truth and common ground, that first sentence, a COVID vaccine is on the way. So that's a fact that we're stating. But, you know, again, here, it's sad that already some people are choosing to spread lies that will only prolong this pandemic. So we're not, you know, we're not trying to refute and give them facts and all this, you know, the vaccines are safe and, you know, it's not true what they're saying. We're just saying, you know, people are spreading lies and just kind of, you know, why would they be doing that? Plant that seed of doubt in the reader, thinking about why are people doing that? And then come in with the truth. Instead of listening to rumors, I hope we can come together to listen to the science and support safe and effective vaccines for all. And then, of course, in this case, since we were tweeting out for Indivisible's Truth Brigade, we made sure we use that hashtag Truth Brigade. These are 3 Twitter posts that I have done recently using the truth sandwich. Each of them starts with the truth. In the middle, I am sort of questioning what's going on. Why are they saying these lies? And then I'm always closing with the truth. So for example, the one in the middle happened to be one of the campaigns that we were doing. AP, which is normally, the Associated Press is normally known as a very high fact, least biased news agency. And yet they were using FAIR, which is a well-known extremist agency. In fact, they are on the Southern Poverty, I'm not going to say it right. Anyway, the people who do hate groups and extremist groups, FAIR is on their list. And AP was quoting them about immigration. So this was Indivisible's campaign to say, hey, AP, your sources are bad. Use the right sources. So in this instance, we don't, you don't tag the people that are bad. In this sense, we don't tag FAIR. You notice we tagged AP right in the first sentence there of the tweet, but you don't want to tag the bad people because you don't need to have them tagged in your tweets. And there in the middle, why is AP using an extremist group known for its disinformation as a source in an article? Here I am questioning, saying that they're telling you lies. What's their motive? And then I'm saying report facts, not fiction. The one here on the far right was one I recently did about the recall. And the GOP messaging says that the recall is about COVID, but that's not what they're really talking about. They're talking about an anti-immigration message. Those are the talking points they're pushing. So why are they lying about the election? Why are they pushing anti-immigration and saying that's what the recall is about? So a lot of people were lied to when they signed those petitions to go ahead and do the recall. So again, see the truth, vote no on the recall. So graphics are always really helpful when you have your truth sandwich. I'm a real big fan of the Fight Truth Decay. I pop that in whenever I get a chance in a different tweet or Facebook post. But this is an example of how you can put together a truth sandwich. And I will admit it takes a little bit of practice to do. It's not something that you do automatically, but it has helped me be a much more effective writer on Twitter. Because it is basically, you can usually string together a 3-sentence tweet because you do have a limit on the number of characters, and you can have a coherent message. And you're very careful that you are not promoting disinformation, nor are you using their terms and repeating the misinformation. If you name it, you spread it. You don't want to do that. So here are our social media profiles for the Writers Alliance. Here's our Facebook page. It is at Writers Alliance 2021. But if you go in and you look for, if you just put in Writers Alliance and you look for this profile picture down here, you'll find our page. Please like it, because the more likes we have, the easier it will be to get people to follow our page. Here's our Twitter account. It is, again, we have this profile picture here. We call ourselves the Writers Alliance, but unfortunately that was already taken on Twitter. So when they gave us a username, they inverted it and it becomes the Alliance Writers. But we always use a hashtag on Twitter. Hashtags are sort of like file folders. and you can find everybody who's tweeted something with that hashtag all in the same place. And so it's really important to use hashtags in Twitter and also in Instagram. That's helpful too. In Facebook, it's not as helpful, but we use them anyway as well. And then here's our Instagram that I just started yesterday, Writers Alliance 2021. And there's our hashtag in Writers Alliance. So I like to sort of wrap things up with and what I hope is an inspirational quote. This one is from Stacey Abrams, someone I think that we can acknowledge is pretty good at putting groups together and getting people organized and accomplishing things. So she says we can do this together because while individually you have purpose, together we have power. And I truly believe that. We can all be working in our individual silos, but if we come together as a group, we can have much greater influence. So here is where I am right now with the county coordinators. For those of you who've completed that interest form, Robin Richards in Siskiyou, I don't know if you're interested in being a county coordinator. I believe you and Tom are the only two people from Siskiyou at this point. Susie Ferries, as far as I know, you are the only person from Sacramento County. So I don't know if that is something that you are interested in doing, but I will support you and help you and work with you in pretty much any way. We don't have anybody yet for Tuolumne. I'm hoping someone will step up to do that. And I know it's a big job. Believe me, I know it's a big job, but it's a really important one. We don't have anybody from Amador as yet. And I thought in the beginning, I heard that someone from Calaveras is with us tonight. So I'm hoping that we can get some writers from Calaveras as well. What I am going to show you now are all of the different task groups as you've indicated you are interested in participating. And so please look over these lists and see if you can find your name. And that your name is where you think it should be. And I think at this point, we can go ahead and have everybody unmute so that if you're on a list you don't want to be on, or you want to be added to a list and you're not there yet, now is the time to kind of speak up.
Can I say something, Barbara?
Yes.
I wanted to ask everybody if they would put their name and the county that they are in on the chat line, because that'll help us if we don't have a form on you, then at least we'll know what county you're with.
Great. Now, I noticed, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Courtney Jackson sign in. Is Courtney still on the call?
Hi, yes, I was having major connect.
Hi, Courtney. For some reason, I do not know what county you are in.
El Dorado.
Got it. Okay. So from the information that I've received so far, if your name is on this list for a researcher and you want to stay there, you don't need to say anything. But if your name is not here and you want it to be here, please let me know. If your name is here and you don't want it here, please let me know that as well. So again, I don't, is everybody able to unmute?
Yeah.
Alan, was that your name I saw pop up there at the top?
Yes, you have me correct. Why can't I talk? You are correct in listing me as a researcher. I just replied to the request to put my name and county in the chat.
Great. Thank you, sir. Okay. I'm going to wait just another minute or so people get a chance to look over this list. And then I'm going to go to the list of writers, which is much longer.
Barbara, I may have missed it. I stepped out a minute for some dinner.
Yes,
But-
Jeffrey.
So on what basis did you make these assignments? That you must have said that.
There's an interest form that I sent to you, and I asked people to tell me what group they thought they were interested in.
Probably one of several or whatever. Yeah.
Well, some people are only interested in doing one task group. Some people were interested in several of them. So some people's names will pop up multiple times as we go through the list.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool.
And the link's in the chat.
Yeah, and a lot of you have filled it out, but not everybody has. So if your name is not up here anywhere, it's because I never got one of the interest forms back from you. And so I don't know what you're interested in doing. And I probably don't know what county you're in either. So let me go ahead and go to the writers list. As I said, again, this is substantially longer. I do have them broken out by county. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you. Oh, and Laura, is Laura Galarte on the call tonight?
Yes, I'm here.
Laura, I didn't have your county either.
El Dorado.
El Dorado, okay. Great, thank you. Okay, about 30 more seconds on the writers list and then I'll move us over. Okay, here's our editors. Or so far, I should say, these are the people who have said they are interested in editing.
Barb, this is Cheryl Berkema. I think I'll pull myself off of here because if you sign up for too many groups, you're researching, writing, and editing your own work.
Well, I thought you were extraordinarily ambitious when that came through. So
I don't mind helping if there aren't people at a particular time to edit. I can certainly help, but at some point, if your name's everywhere, you're not focused.
I agree. We were hoping to have all kinds of writing to do that with. So that's entirely true.
I think it would be up to the coordinators to make sure you weren't your own editor.
That is also true. But you know, again, that's really the job of your county coordinator. Your county coordinator is going, you know, kind of get all of those pieces moving for you so that you kind of just do your thing and, you know, let your county coordinator know what you're doing and they will take it from there.
Hey, Barb.
Yes.
This is Cynthia Davis. Somehow I lost, kind of going from different spots here, I lost the ability to look at the big screen and the chat box. I could chat with you. I can see everybody, but I can't see the overall screen. So I clicked here again to join.
It was just the view at the top where it does the like side by side and see if, or you know, take yourself out of gallery and see if that will help.
Yeah, I tried all of that. It's just, yeah, I don't know what's going on.
And check the little minus button, the little
Where-
minus icon.
Where's that?
It's when you have all the people's faces, there should be a like a minus that takes them from the gallery down to nothing. I'm on an iPad, so mine looks a little different than probably yours.
Yeah, I'm not seeing.
Yeah, I have that window. I have just the one window. So in the far left, there's the one white line, then there's a blue line, then there's two white lines, and then there's a little grid.
Yeah, when I
Oh.
click on any of those, it's not taking me back to that big screen. I don't know why. Well, but anyway, the main thing is I'm not seeing myself on any of those lists, and I thought I signed up for a bunch of them.
I didn't get your interest form back.
Oh gosh, I did that ages ago. Okay. Well, I'm not being able to pull up chat, so should I just email you what I'm interested in?
Sure, that's
Okay.
fine. You can do that.
Okay.
Also, if you move your cursor to the bottom center, a chat icon might pop up. And if you click on that, that might help.
Yeah, and it's been there all along, but all of a sudden I lost that big screen, you know, with all that.
I see.
It's just, yeah, I'm just seeing a few faces. That's it. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So here are our responders, and that, so you might have noticed our groups are getting smaller.
This is a question from Mary. I wanted to know, people are writing in the chat what category they want to be in. Are you checking that as we go, or changing
no,
it,
I
or
can't
do we
see
need
that
to
right
save
now
that?
because I have my screen up, but we can save the chat.
Okay.
So
Okay.
definitely
So let's
want
make sure that we do that. We're done.
So, and Barbara, you're gonna say
Okay.
how to go from one place to another, from later in your screens, how to go from research, how that stuff gets to the writers and how that gets to the editors. Is that part of what you're doing today?
Yeah, it basically all kind of goes through the county coordinator.
Oh, okay,
Because
thanks.
what I've done in Placer right now is, right now we have 4 letters pending for Placer Perspectives, and 2 of them have gone through with editors as well. And so
Okay.
basically they get submitted to me, I send them to an editor, and then when the writer sends it in, then I know that it's a pending letter, so I can start looking. And then as soon as something gets published, then I can let responders know, hey, it's out there. But
So if we're a researcher, we send whatever it is to you and you send it out to your writers?
well, yeah, because I sent in April, I sent out information on HR1 to everybody to do research on that. You might have gotten another one. I just sent it out again last night.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, double check your email and see if there's something in there. Okay,
Will do.
here's our social media cadre. So this is a small army. We need a bigger army here. So again, if you're at all interested in the social media cadre, this would be a really good place to help out. And if you're a writer and you're on social media anyway, you may want to help out with this as well. Okay, let me go to basically what's next. So the first things first, the county coordinators, I'm hoping to have a meeting for just the county coordinators on Saturday, June 5th. So those of you who indicated you're interested in that, I will email you and we'll see if that will work as a date for us. And then shortly thereafter, we can actually start getting everybody organized and writing and working.
Somebody that has their TV on probably ought to mute.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Pat. I'll work with the county coordinators to finalize where we'll have our Google Drives, because that's where the research will be. It'll be in a Google Drive. And so you'll be able to just go to the Google Drive and get your research. You won't have to I mean, it'll all be there. You'll be able to put your letters in pending. So once that Google Drive is available to everybody, it'll make our interactions a lot easier. And then I can also work with the county coordinators to establish their task groups to make sure everybody knows basically what their position is. And again, a lot of this is in the handbook, and once I get that completed, it will make everybody's life much easier. I know the Placer prospective researchers are already working on this because I did send this out to them. They are doing background research for us on the For the People Act. So what I was hoping we could do is all of our writers write about this for the 4th of July and kind of flood the publications locally with letters about the For the People Act with the 4th of July, right around the 4th of July. And then I'll have the handbook available next week and send that out through the county coordinators. And in the handbook will be a list of all the different Writers Alliance social media that you can follow, but also the Writers Alliance members should be following each other. So we'll have to find a way to facilitate that as well. That probably will be something that each county coordinator will do with their people in their county, and then we can spread that out. And so now is the time to start posting, tweeting, writing, and I guess we're ready for Q&A.
Hi, Barbara.
Got my share there.
Hi, Barbara. This is Chris Johnson.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, I just want to mention, because you touch on it a little bit, but some of us in this group here do a lot of writing to our local electeds. And so maybe in the future, we might have a little discussion on that. But I just want to let you know how effective it is. As some of you know, we had a whole debacle about Mr. Euler being appointed to a commission that, you know, he shouldn't be representing us. And so I just wanted to let you know this little anecdote. I was talking to Suzanne Jones the other day. She got over 200 unique letters from people. And she says, I'm so used to getting these letters that are form letters with blanks and all this other stuff. She says, I got 200 individual letters. So I just want to tell you guys this, your letters do impact our electeds. Thanks.
Yeah. They do. And in fact, Chris, were you at the last week's or the first writing seminar?
I had to miss, but I watched it.
Okay, because I did talk a little bit about writing in there, but you're right. I used to write to McClintock all the time. I send him emails every now and then. You know, usually those are definitely the ones that I have to rewrite about 5 times before it's available to send. But yes, I agree with you. And the wording that you use there was really important. They are unique. Yes. If you simply copy and paste a template from somebody else, that is not effective. Each person needs to personalize it. It needs to be authentic. That makes a huge difference.
Another key thing too is when you're writing letters, so like Cheryl and Michael and myself and some of other people, we write a lot of letters into the Board of Supervisors or to the Planning Commission. These become public record. And that's really important as well. So we may want to at some point do a little special thing just on those types of letters, because some of them are more effective than others.
I agree. I think that could be a really good offshoot of what we're doing. Yeah. So we'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Chris. All right. Mary, were there questions as we were going along that I can address?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
Barb, I had 2 questions. One was from last time. Several of us are on Nextdoor and trying to find a way to, I select everywhere you go as far as you can, but what we really want to do is start to connect districts together and messages and maybe how we can do that.
I will tell you my personal experience with trying to use Nextdoor for organizing was not successful. My password on my Nextdoor account is cesspool. I find that a lot of what's there it's just people who are mad at the world. And
Don't give up on it. There's a way to do it. You
I
know,
did, I was having issues with the app itself because I set up a separate group that was, you know, just like a private group for my precinct so that I could interact with just the people in my precinct. And it wouldn't let it, I had trouble adding people. I'd send out messages and they wouldn't receive the messages. So I ended up disbanding the Nextdoor group and doing it as an email group instead, because
I'm actually quite active.
Seminar. We could do a seminar on how to do Nextdoor effectively. And you know what? The responders are the key elements.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say,
I would be a student at that. I would love it.
I'm actually, this is Jeff Ruffgard, I'm actually quite active on Nextdoor. There's the private groups are, you can't say anything political in the main group.
Right.
So you always have to be in a private group, and there's a private group that's actually somehow open to people, I don't know, all over the state, because we have people from Southern California on it also.
Oh.
And it's called Discussing Opposing Viewpoints Like Grown-ups. and in reality, of course, it isn't.
Right.
And so what goes on is that there's this battle between progressives and Trumpists, and we never convince each other, but there are all these lurkers around,
right,
who read the stuff, and sometimes, like, I get positive messages from people who never wrote anything down.
Mm-hmm.
So like I say, it's all kind of like kabuki theater or something like that, where we're doing our sword fighting, and we never change each other's opinion, but it's all for the lurkers. It's all for the people who just read in the background.
Well, you know, in a way, that's how I feel about letters to the editor, because you never know who's going to read that. You never know how far it reaches out. And it's true, the people who will take the time to comment negatively about your letter, you will never convince them, which is why I don't engage with them in any way. Yeah. But and why it's good for us to have positive comments of people responding positively when something is published. But you're right, it's the people who read that and internalize it and think about it, those people who are persuadable, that's your audience out there. Yeah, and exactly. It's really, that sounds like a really interesting experience on Nextdoor. But I think you could use my password for what you have.
That's for sure. I get frustrated. I've quit for a week or so, a couple times now, and then rejoined, because it just gets so frustrated.
Barb, we have two questions.
Okay.
I missed one at the beginning. This was from Pat Ferguson. And she asked, who can put things on our Instagram site? And do we send something to you to put on it?
Right now, I am the administrator on all of those accounts. What I would like to do is to have our county coordinators be the administrator for their county. So in each individual county, they would be the person who posts on that. But if you have something to put on to Instagram, you can send it to me right now to do that. Now I can put it on there for us.
And another question is from Rosalie, who asks, is there a list of publications we need to write letters and columns to?
Yes, ma'am.
I think you
all in the handbook, along with direct links to submit them directly to the publisher. All you have to do is click on that, copy and paste your letter, and it's there.
Okay,
that handbook is going to save my bacon. I just need to finish, revising it and getting it ready for everybody.
But you said the handbook is going to be given to the coordinators. It's not going to be given to everybody.
No. Everybody's going to get one, but what I wanted to do was share it with the coordinators first.
Oh,
so they can see it. But everybody's going to have a copy of the handbook, because it is for everybody to use. But I wanted to go through it with them first, so that then if their county people have questions, they can answer them.
Great.
Will the handbook have
Okay.
the email addresses of all the people, especially that are in our subgroup?
I hadn't thought of doing that, but that's a good idea, Pat. I mean, I don't know how, I know some people are very uncomfortable with their email being out in a public forum. I sometimes suggest, and I was going to suggest this on the social media thing too. If you are uncomfortable posting on, personally on your personal account, or you can always make up a separate account to do your political stuff, and name yourself, positive patriot in Placer kind of thing. And you don't have to post under your own name. I mean, I post under my own name, but I don't use any of my pictures of my face anymore, just because this is a small town, and Euler's people were after me for a while. So I took my picture off of all that stuff I use. On one of them, I have a picture of Joe Biden is my avatar. On another one, I have a Star Trek, because I'm a big sci-fi person. So I have a Star Trek badge on one, and another one, I forget what I have on, but I don't use a personal picture. And you can actually be on social media and not be using your personal name as your username. And if that makes you more comfortable in doing that, go for it. I would rather have somebody try doing it that way than, not be on social media at all, because they're concerned about having their personal profile out there.
Really
I
glad.
can't tell.
Okay,
for
Barb, we have 3 questions, Barb. We have 3 questions here.
Okay.
From Cheryl, she asks, is there a list of topics currently to write about?
Right now, we're doing research on the For the People Act. So no, we don't have a specific list of topics for writers right now. I'm hoping that the county coordinators can work together to develop some topics that we would like to be writing about. Certainly the recall or anti-recall is going to be a topic we're going to want to be writing about. But beyond that, I'd like to see us talk about infrastructure, and maybe the filibuster is a great topic to be writing about. So there's lots of different things that we could be writing about. But again, some writers don't necessarily want to write to a theme. Something moves them. They have something they want to write about, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, we want to get those ideas out there, and anything that we want to be as supportive of each other as possible, and we want to be as encouraging as possible for people to be participating and getting their message out there.
Okay, a question from Alan. He suggests that we ask all participants, is anybody interested in editing Wikipedia? He says, it's my favorite way to fight political disinformation. This may seem paradoxical because Wikipedia is factual, apolitical, and impartial, but facts on Wikipedia combat the lies on which many political fallacies are based. So that may be something we want to discuss within, or the county coordinators could add that on and get that out there.
Thank you.
That's a fun idea.
Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I'd be interested in doing that. I
does
love
anybody?
Wikipedia, and I have edited it some, on little things myself.
Is
It's a
that
great
Jeffrey
resource.
speaking?
Yeah,
I
Jeff.
think that's Jeffrey. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Then we have a question from David, who asks, I'm guessing the handbook will help with details of logistics and that there will be training for coordinators on how to do it.
Yes, that's part of the reason why I'm hoping to get together. Is that David Rowell from Fresno who was asking that?
Yes, that is.
Okay, because I know David is has indicated to me that he would be interested in being a county coordinator, and it's a huge job. I'm not going to try and minimize it and say, it's a walk in the park. It's not. There are a lot of moving pieces here, that you have to put together. And because I have this vision, I see how it goes together, but sometimes that's harder for other people to see. And so we have to kind of sit down and walk it through so that I can help it make sense for some other people. So David, definitely the 5th of June, as I said, is I'm hoping a day when we can, the county coordinators can get together and we can start going through the materials, and it will, when we have a smaller group like this and I'm not in kind of an overview mode, I can spend a lot more time with details on specific parts.
This is David. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. Okay.
We haven't heard back from, just one second. We haven't heard back from any of the other county coordinators except myself, if the 5th is okay. So if you're a county coordinator, if you could just let us know if that date will work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know Susan. And like I said, I don't know, you know, I'm not sure if Susie Ferries is on the call tonight. And yeah, Lori was saying that that would work. But, you know, again, we still have a couple of counties that we are looking for someone to become a coordinator. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris. You must use your name on a letter, but social media is totally different. And yes, I mean, you have to give Twitter your real name, but that doesn't have to be your username. So, and other people don't know who you are. So anyway, that's a whole different. I'm sorry, I discombobulated my own self.
Okay, this is Rosemary Brock and I live in Calaveras. I will pass on the request to get people to represent the Calaveras with the writers group. The other thing, and it's off topic, but I keep mentioning it to people. Calaveras, particularly the part I live in, is heavily Republican, like 78%. And Laura Lowell, who's our absolutely brilliant chairperson, actually had somebody draw a gun when she was talking about politics. And so she's very loath to have us go into situations where we're likely to be confronted with that experience. One of the things I discovered is using Zillow, you can find homes that have recently sold in your area, which comes up in a reverse chronological area. So you can look up your neighborhood on Zillow and then go in through the things and say, you only want to see the sold homes. And you can find homes in your area that have transferred property. And I will quite often turn up at one of these homes and knock on the door with a jar of jam or something and say, welcome to the neighborhood. And if it turns out that I have reason to believe that they are from outside the area, then I will mention Calaveras Democrats. But because so many people are moving here from outside of the county, it increases the likelihood that they are Democrat. So anyway, it's just an easy way to find people who, first of all, need to get re-registered to vote. And yes, I do carry my voter registration forms in the car with me.
That's pretty brilliant, Rosemary. That is some, you know, grassroots organizing 101. I'm really
well, but with a higher probability.
Yeah.
If I go and set up a thing for voter registration in front of the local grocery store, I'm predominantly going to be registering Republicans. Not so interesting to me.
Right. Not only that, but then you're going to have people who just come by and they just want to heckle.
Right. Well, and even if you put up signs saying, you know, because I'll register anybody, and I am absolutely fierce about turning in the forms. I mean, I know the rules and so forth. It doesn't mean I don't want to target Democrats. And so this is the way of doing it. By the way, all state offices, DMV or any state thing, is supposed to make available voter registration forms. So there's that to remember. But in any case, think about Zillow as a way of targeting people you might want to register to vote.
I definitely think I should talk with you about that. That is a really intriguing strategy. I'm impressed. I bow down. It's just awesome. I really like that. I saw, oh, there she is, Sarah, up in the corner. I see your hand.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
So I live in Truckee, Nevada County, and I'll be curious as to what topics evolve for discussion and for comment through this group. But one thing that we are actively dealing with in Truckee, as many people know, is the influx of people and development and growth.
Right.
And then what goes along with that too is land management. Are those appropriate topics that would?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I kind of like to think that each county has its own unique set of issues and concerns. And while we might all be writing, we might have some of our people writing about the recall. Other people in that county might want to write about a different topic, something local. And certainly very often you are far more likely to be published by a local paper if you are dealing with a local issue rather than something that's statewide. And so absolutely that is something that should be done and can be done. And we'll still want to push that out just because it's not an issue to Placer, or I should say, let's say it's not an issue for Roseville. It still is a huge issue when you start talking about what's happening with the price of homes and the massive movement, the demographic movement that we have in this area. It is of interest to everybody.
And along with that, I'm just curious: is there
hold on just a sec, Mary.
So any sort of database of past topics that have been researched, and the effort put into this type of thing is huge. Like one thing we're dealing with right now is vegetation management, roadside vegetation management, and forest health and fire safety. And I'm looking for any resources that might be available.
I do have some materials that have been shared with me by Indivisible Auburn. Pat Ferguson gave me quite a few research materials. I don't recall that there's anything specifically on that topic, but I will look and see if there's anything we have that might be of help to you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Barb, the
Sarah,
Alliance for Environmental
also-
Leadership. Sorry.
That's it. Go ahead.
The Alliance, to answer Sarah's question, the Alliance for Environmental Leadership has an Enviro, they have a letter that they send out with different events, and there's a lot of people that are very active in the environmental space.
That's true. Is Leslie on this call this evening by any chance, Leslie Warren?
I didn't see her, but if you just Google Alliance for Environmental Leadership, you can sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah, that would be a great source. And Sarah, I have that information. I can send that to you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Also, Sarah, I know in El Dorado County, our Fire Safe Council is very active and is applying for grants, and it would let you know what grants are available and what their projects are. I don't know what's available in your area, but the Fire Safe Council is a good resource. We have another question from Courtney, and I'm not sure it got answered.
Okay.
She asked, I'm so glad you addressed using an alias on social. Would it be appropriate and effective for letters to the editor?
Actually, I think Chris was answering in the chat as well. No, when you submit a letter to the editor, you have to submit it under your own name with your own address. They will check to see if you are a real person, and if you cannot submit it anonymously, and I don't know if you could use a fake name. I've never tried to use a fake name, but I do know that they double check to see that you are who you are. I've had editors call me before and do fact checks.
Barbara, it's Rosie. I remember back when, like the Auburn Journal, they would only let you have so many letters per so many weeks. Well, a friend of mine used her dog's name, the dog's first name, and you know what? It went through. So I just throw that out.
Okay, well,
Also, I don't know about other publications, but I know the Mountain Democrat, you have to submit your name, but somehow people have especially in the responses, there's all these code names like Liberty and ENG. And so I don't know. I don't know how that works.
The responses is different, but the letter itself has to be a person, and they have to have the name and address. The responders, unfortunately, that's why a lot of them are so crude, because they don't have to put their name in there.
right,
Well,
you
you
can
can
just
put
do it
links in,
anonymously
yeah.
and just throw stuff out.
Yeah.
As far as I know, none of the publications will publish any personal information about you other than your first and last name and where you live, your city name. They do not publish your address, and they require a phone number, but they don't publish that either. Okay.
That's all I see.
Okay.
Did I forget anyone? I apologize if I missed anyone here. I think I got them all. Well, thank you all for coming. This is very exciting. Looking forward to meeting together with the county coordinators council, and then getting those handbooks out to you. And Barbara, thanks for an outstanding presentation.
You're welcome. This one was a little choppier than the last one, I think, because there are so many moving parts. But I appreciate all of you being here. And again, this is my vision, and I know if we all work together, we can do this. So thank you very much. I guess we're going to call it for the evening, and I will be back in touch with all of you again very soon. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Good night, Barb.
Bravo, bravo.
Bravo.